Whether you're planning on buying or selling your home, the prospect of starting the process can be really daunting. Mortgage rates, down payments, staging and preparing your home for sale, the cost of moving, the flexibility, and at times uncertainty of the housing market. There are all so many things to think about. Today, I am joined by Natasha Kouk, who is a realtor with Royal LePage. She's here to tell us all about all things moving and answer some questions that I have, and hopefully other listeners might have, about buying and selling your home here in Winnipeg. Hi, Natasha. It's nice to meet you
Hello, Chris.
here over Zoom. I thought I would start the conversation out by getting you just to tell us about yourself. How long have you been a realtor and what got you into the real estate market?
I've been a realtor for 20 years. My 20th anniversary is December 1st of this year.
Oh,
And
wow.
I can say that I'm having just as much fun in my 20th year as I had in my first year. But it's way more fun now, I would think, in the way that I have more knowledge after 20 years. The first couple of years can be extremely daunting.
When I was prepping for the interview, when I was reading about the real estate market here in Winnipeg, and from what I gather, it's a hot market. Am I wrong in that? And what do realtors use to gauge how hot or how cold the housing market is here in Winnipeg?
Well, every month there's statistics done by the Winnipeg Regional Board, and the most recent statistics are saying that it has been a very hot market since COVID began. It was somewhat flat in 2019, and no one expected that COVID was going to create this crazy market. And it's not just here in Winnipeg, it's international, what is happening with all markets everywhere. And I think it was because when COVID happened, people who were in small spaces who suddenly had to work at home realized this was not sustainable if they wanted to stay married. So, if you're living in a small apartment or a smaller home and you both are working at home, you need two offices, you need your bedrooms for yourself and your children. And if you're stuck inside, which we were for many, many months, all of a sudden people were reevaluating where they wanted to be, and quality of life became a very big and important thing, if it's anything we have learned from the experience of the pandemic. And everyone decided to invest their monies because they were not traveling or spending it on going out and dining and all these other things we spend our money on, and decided that real estate was the time to move into the market. Firstly, because the workplace was changing. You were working out of your home. And that is not going to change. It means many businesses are still running, people are still working at home, and they're sometimes going to the office. So that's really what caused a lot of what's going on all over the world with the pandemic. And this is a market that we've never seen here in Winnipeg, but I think that's true for almost every area, that the pent-up demand has been extreme to the amount of housing. And the problem for that is that the boomers, who own the largest amount of real estate worldwide, they were not moving because they couldn't travel, they couldn't go to their second homes, they couldn't do all the things they were used to. So why sell their big homes in which they have their space to go to a smaller home? And then we have the millennials behind who want to buy real estate. So it's a big bang of craziness in the real estate world.
So was there were there super bidding wars that happened in particular over this past summer? Like here in Winnipeg, were there houses that were just where the prices were just getting bid higher and higher and higher on?
The statistics that just came out, that will come out, actually be published in the next couple of days, but I got some information earlier, is that 48% of the homes that were on the market, and I'm talking residential detached, sold 48% sold over list. But the average over list price was actually only 3%, because some things don't sell, may have sold only for 5,000 over list, and some of the smaller things may have sold for way over list. But I think people think that every single house is selling over list, and that's not the case, because you have the bigger properties as well, and a mix and match of everything. So 52% were not, but they were getting very, very good values and higher values than you would have received, say, if you went back to 2019. So between 2019 and today, where we stand, the market has increased. And of course, there's going to be exceptions, right? So overall, the market has increased 11% over last year. And then last year, it was probably the same amount. So we've increased about 20 to 25 since 2019. So great if you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not so great if you're buying and you don't have inventory to sell.
Right.
So if you're selling and buying, you're buying in the same market. But if you're never owned, then you're paying high rates, high amounts for houses. But on the other hand, interest rates are at the lowest we've ever seen historically.
So it sort of leads to my next question. Is it worthwhile to, like, what's better, a fixed mortgage rate or a variable mortgage rate?
Well, the mortgage rates I just found out this morning, you could get it anywhere between, for fixed 5-year term is approximately 2.49. Now you may be able to get discounts with some of the mortgage brokers, but that would be sort of where you'd be at, somewhere between 2.25 to 2.5. But the variable rate right now is a ridiculously low 1.15% with some mortgage brokers. But variable means that you will be at risk if the Bank of Canada rate goes up. So it depends on if you want to sleep at night worrying about the rate going up, or if you want to just lock into a fixed. And remember, 20 years ago when I started, the interest rates were nowhere as low as this. And when it went down to 5%, we were celebrating. We're half now. And that, when the interest rates are low, prices tend to be higher. When interest rates go up, prices tend to come down because it's affordability, right? The higher the rate, the less you can afford. But remember, first buyers all have to qualify at the stress test rate, which is, I think it's 5.29%. So people keep saying, well, when the interest rates go up, buyers won't be able to afford. I don't think that's an accurate statement, because you have to qualify at that stress test rate. Doesn't matter who you are, you have to be able to qualify at that, so that when the rates do go up, you won't be losing your homes.
Speaking of cost of homes, I get the general sense that here in Winnipeg, houses are less than, say, Toronto and Vancouver. What is it about the Winnipeg market that is so unique? Why is there such a disparity between the cost of housing here in Winnipeg and places like Toronto and Vancouver?
Okay, that's a big question. I suppose it's that's a really big question. I would think that it's your market is as good as where you live, right? So it's location. So we're a smaller population, we're more spread out, and also a economy is incomes are lower here. So if you have lower incomes here, then your housing and the cost of living would be lower, right? So whereas in Toronto, the cost of living is so much higher. So you have to spend the average price in Toronto, I think, was just published at 1.15 million. The average price right now in the Winnipeg regional area is now 380,000. And remember, we're only a population of 1.4 million, I think, for all of Manitoba, versus the very big area. So the more people you have, the more housing you have to provide the needs. But Winnipeg has grown exponentially since 2008, 2010. And all of South Winnipeg and North Winnipeg, none of those areas ever existed. So we are building, but the thing is, if we don't have houses to sell, it's going to push the market. And the thing is that the boomers are holding the largest percentage of homes. The millennials are now the biggest demographic next to the boomers, and they are now at the age between 25 and 35, and they are ready to buy. That's normal in any market. However, with COVID, boomers are not selling, and the generation above are not selling, they're staying put. And then you've got all these 25 plus younger people now getting married, starting to have their first children, and they want houses. So that And that's happening here too. And why? And Winnipeg, we're very lucky. We can afford homes between the most most attractive margin here is between 250 to 500. However, those houses tend to be bidded up because there's more buyers. But in most other areas in Canada, even some of the smaller cities, you can't buy a house for 500,000. It's 800 plus.
And more. Yeah. If you are planning on selling your home, what are some things that you can do to your house to make sure that it will get the best possible price? Like as a realtor, if you're talking to somebody who's going to be selling their home, what are some of the things that you would suggest to do?
Well, my best and first advice to anyone who owns their home is fix the little things that tend to break right when it's broken, and don't let your house deteriorate to begin, because if you do little jobs, it shows well maintained. And that's something that you cannot just put paint on to show well maintained, because people can walk in and see that you've taken care of your house for 10 years or 20 years. And that goes a really long way, even if it's not completely updated, but you can see how well cared it was taken, that they've loved the house. So, but the most important things that get you the highest dollar is renovating your kitchen and your bathrooms. That's the biggest bang for your buck. And that's the stick. So if you're ever going to do renovations, and a lot of people, yes, you want to do the mechanicals, which are very important, like the roof and the appliance and the furnace and the air conditioner and the exterior. You need to make sure that people always forget the outside of their homes, and that's where you need to always have your house looking pretty.
Right.
So but kitchen and bathrooms tend to bring you the most value back, and the cheapest and most cost-effective upgrade is actually painting your house.
Yeah.
It's amazing what paint can do, and flooring. So, but you don't have to do it all at once. So if you do a little bit one year, and it doesn't even have to be painting the whole house, but painting the areas you use most that get banged up. But so I think it's actually people who take care of their homes, it always shows. And for those who, sometimes when I go in, I will say, well, maybe we should paint this because it's really banged up. And sometimes people don't have the funds either to do it. So you try and do the best you can for the smallest amount if you don't have the budget to get it prepared. But any realtor would advise you of that. And hard to believe, but decluttering your house does go a long way.
Yeah, I'm sure. I grew up in River Heights, and where I think of houses, the two things about River Heights that always was sort of a chronic problem was the foundation, especially the closer you got to Wellington Crescent, because of the river. And the other thing was because those homes a lot of them were built in the 20s and 30s, the electricity. So like just bringing the house up to,
to code,
to code, from that standpoint. I mean, those are bigger expenses, but do you get return on your money once it comes time to sell?
Most definitely. So things like knob and tube and aluminum wiring that was done predominantly in the 70s, insurance companies are pushing homeowners to do these things because they don't want to insure homes that will be risky, just like wood fireplaces. We all had them, but now insurers don't want to insure them. But knob and tube is an costly upgrade. However, in the older homes, it does bring you back the value if it was done. So because it's hard to get insurance for the buyers. So, and also too with foundations, if you notice something, actually, if you grade your foundation and make sure, that's simple things you can do to protect your basement. Keep it completely graded so the soil doesn't erode, and then the water is flowing into the house, and all it needs is a tiny crack to find a way.
Right.
And fix it if you find something, because if you find a small leak, it's way better to fix than to wait for it when its entire whole wall is falling in and you need to remedy that. So, and water will find its way, unfortunately,
everywhere. Yeah. So let me go the other way. I'm a buyer and I'm at an open house and I'm looking at the house and it looks amazing on the inside. What are some things I should be looking for that might not be, it might look good on the outside, but once you like dig into it, there might be some problems. What are some things that I should be
Um,
looking for?
well, also for young buyers, you have to look for sometimes people do lipstick, I call it, where they just slap the paint on and sometimes you can see it, where they don't paint around the trim properly. But you always want to be aware of basements because especially in older homes, because of the soil here in Manitoba, basements are always issues here. So I always check in the basements to see if there's been any infiltration because you can also see it stains the bottom of the drywall and whatever like that. Also, too, I'm really sensitive to must. So
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm not breathing, I know there's something happening, in the house. So, and also you always want to look at the shingles and if they're starting to curl, then you know that it needs replacement. Have a look at the furnace and the air conditioner, see how old, because those are more costly items, the shingles, the look at the electric panel to see if it has been upgraded or not. And even if it may show a new panel, it doesn't mean that all the knob and tube has been removed, or was the aluminum wiring cut off properly and spliced as it should have been by an electrician. So those are questions that hopefully you have hired a good realtor who knows what to look for and will guide you, because a lot of people don't have a clue. That's why they hire us. That's why we're still in business, right?
Yeah.
So we can say, oh, no, we're worried about that. Or look around the grading of the house. Is the parching, is it coming off? Do we see any cracks? Is the house in River Heights, so in the older areas, is it, sometimes you walk up and the house could look crooked, So those are all the things that a buyer should look at. And sometimes when you see a flip house, are you making sure that the permits will pull? That's a very important thing, because some banks are wanting to see that the permits are pulled before you purchase a house, because what if you have a problem after, right?
Right, right, right.
So a knowledgeable and good realtor will do the work so that they can guide you. That's why people hire us, so that we can show them the things that they may not be aware of, because most people don't know what they're looking for because they don't know what they should be looking for.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that I've noticed is that condos here in Winnipeg, I mean, it seems they're going up everywhere. Is there like condo or house? What's the advantage, or does it depend on the situation?
Well, condos are a lifestyle, okay? And I actually live in a bungalow condominium. And so that's a condominium that's like a detached house that is on my own land. And I have service cleans the driveway and the snow and whatever. So that's a lifestyle. It's no different than living in a regular bungalow, except that I pay to have my driveway and everything cleaned. But condos are actually been very strong this last year, sales, because the affordability for a house has now taken a lot of young buyers out of the market. And the statistics are between 150 to 250 is the most buoyant market for condominiums. So if you are, but then you have a condo fee. So if you're wanting to spend 300 to 350, condos maybe what you should be looking at, because that's where a lot of the bidding is happening. And they're going to be entry-level homes, residential detached homes that may not necessarily meet your needs. They may be smaller. They may have issues because they're older or whatever. So condos appeal to, listen, if it wasn't Winnipeg and we were living in other major cities, condo living is what most people do
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah.
can't afford detached. So with the number of condos that we have now, and also to remember, immigration into Canada is going to accelerate in the next year once everything is open and back to normal. So they need to provide housing. But for us in Winnipeg, we tend to think housing as residential detached, because we have the luxury of being able to afford under 500 a lot of homes. But in most major centers, you're in a condo.
Yeah.
So there's many different types of condos: apartment, townhouse style, bungalow, so many different types. And it's appealing to a lot of young people, I think, now because of the affordability, and for boomers who want to go down because they're retiring or whatever, they want to go into one level living in apartment buildings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Natasha,
good option, very good
yeah,
option.
yeah, that sounds like it. Natasha, the information, this has just been great. It's time for a plug now. If people want to hire you as a realtor, where can they go to get in touch with you?
Well, you can call me directly at 204-989-5000. It's an easy number to remember.
Uh-huh.
And my email is Natasha at NatashaKouk.com. That's Natasha at NatashaKouk.com. I am on Instagram as well. So you can always pull up my name and there I am. And usually available all the time.
Perfect. And for our Classic 107 listeners, all that contact information you will be able to find up on our website, classic107.com. Natasha, this has just been a treat. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Love your station.
Thank you.